Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Weekend Winners in association with BetVictor, your weekly go-to show to find you those big Saturday winners. And we have jump action aplenty on this week's show with Ascot and Haydock, the latter of which, of course, staging the feature race of the weekend, the Grade 1 Betfair Chase. And we're looking at these races in the usual company alongside Declan Ricks and Sam Boswell. Dec, we managed to bring up the hat-trick with Buddy One even last week, so pats on the back of the round.
Yeah, well, Buddy One was a friend to the show, wasn't he? And he fairly bolted up, I thought. And he was punted off the boards. What an old it was a pretty big gamble there. So are we allowed to claim the 11-2? We are.
Oh, we will.
Yeah, we will claim it. Yeah,
No,
bolted up.
will.
So, yeah, a nice little winner for the show, which I think that's a 66% strike rate, albeit from 3 horses, where now we all come down on the same horse, they win. So, yeah, go on, the Buddy One.
We will take it, like say, when the three of us agree now. 2 from 3, 66.66%. Hopefully we can improve on that down the line. Whether or not we agree today, though, Sam, is another matter.
Yeah, really competitive stuff, isn't it, Kate? And this is the time of year we can all get really excited about, and we'll have a bit of chat about some anti-post movement as well.
Yeah, exactly. Anti-post plays and plenty this weekend. But before we get stuck into the action, a reminder as ever to please do gamble responsibly. Our tips are not guaranteed to win, but we will still do our best to point you in the right direction. All the same, right on with the action, because we begin at Haydock and we begin with a difficult one to say the least, where one of us might just have a big price fancy. Now it is at Haydock with the Stayers Handicap Hurdle, a premier handicap for 4-year-olds and over 3 miles at 220. We have a Mullins runner towards the head of the market, but it's slate lane for Emmett Mullins, joined by Crambo, 3-1 heading the way. But Dec, who are you siding with?
Yeah, competitive stuff to kick off the show this week with an Emmett Mullins and Paul Byrne-owned horse kind of to the head of the betting with Crambo. But I thought Santos Blue was grossly overpriced for the Skelton Yard, to be honest. It was really interesting. I was going back over his profile last season. First 3 races, I think, for the yard were very, very disappointing. And then the tongue tie that he wore in his point-to-point days went back on, and he just looked a completely different horse. He got the hat-trick up at Weatherby, Chepstow and Kelso before finishing his season over 3 miles at Cheltenham behind a Broadway Bob, who I thought was very good at Cheltenham last weekend. Form looking really solid now. Made his comeback behind the favourite Crambo 27 days ago at Aintree. But, you know, maybe they were targeting this race because I thought he'd come on for the run. Ben Sutton threw away his whip. You know, he's like, Ran, I don't want to get too close. So I thought it was a nice run. I thought a couple of things would be in his favour this week. I thought better ground will definitely help. I think he's got a 6-pound swing in the weights as well for just over 2 lengths with Crambo. And the Skelton Yard, I think it's been interesting listening to Dan talk this week about how his horses haven't been winning first time up, and second time out might be the time to catch him. I hope he's right. So I'm hoping it's going to be Santos Blue gets off to a flyer this week.
I did tee it up that one of us had a big price fancy in this race. That might just have given it away then. But Sam, did you have anything similar?
No, I'm going towards the head of the betting, but I'm absolutely delighted we've got this Emmett Mullins horse in here, because for all the horse could be anything and you know, did nothing wrong at Newton Abbott, the horse that finished behind has gone on and done something over fences. I kind of just felt like this is brilliant for me because it makes the market for Crambo, who for me is one of the classier animals in here. I think if you go back through last season's form, you can put a line through the Challow. That ground was absolutely really ridiculously bad. And then the Aintree run where he ends up 7th. If you watch that run back, actually, he was a bit unlucky with the horse that fell in front of him 3 out. He was wide for a lot of the trip. And go through the form of that race. The first has come out and won. You Wear It Well's come out and won. I think the John Joe O'Neill horse won last weekend. Suddenly you look at it and go, well, that 7th actually isn't bad at all. I think he's an absolutely cracking little sort of stayer in the making. Obviously, the owner's been reported this week to have said, look, you know, potentially could make up into a Stayers Hurdle horse. And you look at some of the previous alumni that have won this race, they can go and improve again and head down that route. And, you know, I think he was 33s with us for the Stayers Hurdle. And I wouldn't put anyone off before this race, because if he goes and wins it well off this mark, that's got to be the natural route they'll take. And I think he's going to be a really fun horse this season to follow.
Yeah, so much so. Like you say, the owner has been so bullish. And as you also say, the roll of honour for winners of this race, they've gone on to win the Stayers Hurdle themselves. So it is not any sort of forlorn hope that Crambo might just work up into being that. And I totally agree, where I'm pleased that we've got the Emmett Mullins horse in here, because it is making the market then for Crambo, where he was such a cosy winner last time out. I think that Conor Brace did really well to only win by 2 1/4 lengths. Now, coming into this race on the back of a winning reappearance in an Aintree handicap hurdle has been seen to winning effect in recent renewals of this contest as well. So he's ticking that box. He's hugely progressive and winning the EBF final last year. Always a form line I want to be following for the following season for staying handicap hurdlers. So we are both with Crambo, but Dec?
Yeah, you guys have got the right form line, just the wrong horse. Yeah.
So reverse forecast.
Yeah, maybe that's the way to go, exactly.
You might just have the right price, though, to be fair. Right, so divided opinion then between us for our opening race. Do let us know your own selections in the comment section below. Now, we move on to the feature race of the weekend. This, of course, is the Grade 1 Betfair Chase. This is for 5-year-olds and over 3 miles, 1.5 furlongs at 3 o'clock at Haydock. Brave man's game. He gets the green light to run, partnered by Daryl Jacob. 3 rivals to contend with. So, Sam, how are we playing the Betfair Chase?
Yeah, it's a decent 4, isn't it? And I suppose they've all got their respective merits and slightly different, but purely just if you look at the ratings, if you look at everything else, I'm massively in favour of Brave Man's Game here. I appreciate maybe it wasn't Plan A, but Paul Nicholls is such a good trainer that he will have plenty of opportunities for Plan B to come to fruition here. You know, the Charlie Hall run, if you just take out that slight error, realistically, would he have won? Yeah, I think he might have done. Maybe we're only seeing him here because of that, and Paul wants him to get a win into him before the King George. He's going to be fit. You know, and as Declan's already said at the start of the show, Dan Skelton horses potentially, for all he's spoken that this horse will be ready, have been needing that first run. And I think he possibly wasn't expecting a horse of the quality of Brave Man's Game to be turning up here, because let's be honest, none of us did to start with. He's turning up. He's nearly around even money, just a shade of odds on. I think he's a cracking price, because I do think the wrongs will want to be rewrited, I should say. And I just think it's a great price. I really do. And I know people say, oh, he's odds on, but I can't really see anything beating him if he jumps.
If he jumps, he wins, says Sam. Dec, what do you say?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Look, I think that's probably the first mistake I've ever seen Brave Man's Game make. You know, I think I appreciate I haven't been in the game as long as many, and I'm still learning, but this fella is as good a jumping, staying chaser as I've ever seen. He can do absolutely everything. He can get in short, he's quick and nimble away, he can go long for fun as well. He's got great scope, great athletic ability. Look, I think you can give him a pass for that, the mistake at Weatherby, can't you? It was very, very soft ground, maybe even heavy. He was very brave. He just took off too early and met the fence on the way down. And that kind of mistake, I think, on your first run of the season, on nearing heavy ground, can really knock the wind out of your sails. And we shouldn't forget, he was carrying a Grade 1 penalty that day. You know, before the mistake, he did his usual, jumped for fun, travelled really well. I agree with Sam. I think he should be shorter than 10 to 11. You might even get a little bit bigger on the day, because for some reason the market just seems to hate some of these Nicholls horses on these big days. I can never understand it myself, and you get a bit of extra value. And that's actually, we should probably mention that he was a late drifter the closer we got to the offer in the Charlie Hall. So maybe, you know, a lot wasn't expected of him. I think Paul has said he's come out of the race really well. He thinks he's strengthened up again this year. And, you know, I just think Daryl Jacob will be able to dictate his own pace if he wants. You know, Paul says he's a very easy ride, Brave Man's Game. I agree, because he jumps so well, but he does kind of race a little bit behind the bridle. So I hope Daryl doesn't panic. Not that he will panic, because he's a very experienced rider, that he doesn't panic maybe that he's not travelling as well as he should be, because once you give him a squeeze, he does find for you. So, and in the Gold Cup, when he met Protectorat, I think he had 8.5 lengths to spare over him that day as well. So yeah, I think Brave Man's Game's a really good bet. I'd have him shorter.
Well, you two have made a very good case for his price as well as his chances here. But I'll throw it back to you. Are you not concerned, though, that this seems a bit of an afterthought, rather than the original plan was just go to a Charlie Hall, straight then to the King George? He's a horse who does well off of the back of a freshen-up, Sam.
Yeah, but by the same token, you look at how clear on ratings he is here. He's we want to see these horses running, and Paul would know better than anyone else if the horse needs to go again. And I think isn't it refreshing that he's gone the other way, where so many trainers might have gone, oh, definitely not going to run him again before the King George. He's like, actually, no, I want to press on. I want to see what's there. We want to obviously go one better. And look, let's be honest as well, it's a great opportunity for him.
Well, I would say as well, it very quickly is 3 or 4 days immediately after the Charlie Hall, before this was even on the radar, Paul said he's come out of the race brilliant.
Yeah.
He said you wouldn't even know he's had a race. So while it is an afterthought in some regards, I'd be very confident that he's going to take a good step forward.
Don't get me wrong, I'm over the moon that he's here because it's making a real race and a lot of intrigue, but I am just concerned that this is a bit of an afterthought for him, where if he even shows what he did in the Charlie Hall, then he wins in this. But I just don't know. When you've got Protectorate, yes, you've both said about Dan Skelton's horses needing their first starts of the season, but they have had tunnel vision for Protectorate for this race. This is effectively his Gold Cup, the Betfair Chase, winning it last year. Now, yes, he did capitalise off of a Plutard disappointing, and then Bristol de May, of course, ran below himself, and he only had one more run before he retired. So he was probably gifted that to an extent, but he was so impressive all the same. And I just think the price, your traders are being sneaky because they are luring me in with that price to take on Brave Man's Game. So I am going to be an absolute sucker for it and side with Protectorate there at 15-8. You both, though, with Brave Man's Game in the Grade 1 Betfair Chase. Right now, we head to Ascot because we have the Grade 2 1965 Chase for the 4-year-olds and over 2 mile 5 at 1:30. Again, only 4 runners here. Harry Cobden has been sent to ride Pic D'Orhy, but he is not favourite. That is Shishkin at 4-6. So, Deck, how are you playing it?
Yeah, it's a real shame Shishkin isn't lining up at Haydock, to be honest. But I suppose when you give the trainers these many options, they're going to take the low-hanging fruit. I can see why Nicky Henderson is doing it, to be fair. They've said that, you know, the King George is the big aim. And look, I think he's going to take a lot of beating. I think the aura of invincibility he had about him is gone. You know, he obviously had that bone issue in the Champion Chase, didn't he? And then he was well beaten in the Tingle Creek. But the bone issue aside, this is a horse who should have been stepped up and trip an awful long time ago, and we saw it when he won the Ascot Chase last season over this course and distance, just how effective he was up in trip. He's always had that kind of stamina in him. You know, he's by Sholokov, a horse who's obviously sired Don Cossack to win a Gold Cup, and I think the distaff side of his pedigree is Voller Lavedette, Stairs Hurdle. You know, this horse really is bred to be a Gold Cup horse and excel over that kind of trip. The thing is with Shishkin, we don't what Shishkin's going to turn up. I think, you know, seeing what he's like in the parade ring and pre-race and how he is down at the start, that's going to be very important to him, because after he was brilliant at Ascot last season, he just looked a completely different horse at Cheltenham. He looked gone at the game. He didn't want to be there. He was slow away. He didn't jump as well. He didn't travel as well. To be fair, though, you know, he did kind of try and run on strongly late, so that the fire still burns there. First-time cheap pieces, I think, are really interesting. I thought he needed them quite a long time ago, because he can race behind the bridle. So just probably worth mentioning those. The cheek pieces are going on. The tongue-tie that he wore when winning the Ascot Chase last season, that's come off. So they're having a real play around with apparatus here, the Henderson team. But look, if he turns up in the same order as he did last season, he's going to bolt up, I think, isn't he? So, yeah, Shishkin for me, but I would like to see how he is in the prelims and see how he takes everything.
Yeah, exactly that, because he is a horse where he wears his heart on his sleeve, literally. And Dex just said there, Sam, about the headgear changes then for him. Now, the cheek pieces have divided a fair few opinions about whether or not this is a positive or a negative, but where did you stand?
I didn't overthink it. He's worked in them at home, they've put them on. To my mind, you look at that piece of form against the nearest market rival in here, what was it, a 17-length beating? So even if he doesn't run to his best, you'd still really fancy him to finish well ahead. I get it. I do understand that people would be maybe concerned, first run of the season, but it's very hard for me to see the form being turned around. I think 4-6 is a very fair price. I know I've tipped up a lot of favourites today, but I just really do think at 4-6, I sort of looked at it and thought, well, you know, Nicky Henderson, and the other thing we've had as well, with the recent rain, Nicky Henderson would have had these horses schooling on grass. And I do accept your point that you're concerned about the Ryanair last year, because that was a bizarre run. But even still, he ended up finishing a very fair second. The heart got him there. Then he goes to Aintree and wins over the extended trip there on slightly quicker ground. to my mind, I never want to say bomb-proof or words like that, but I think he's a really good... I don't think he's this quirky individual that we need to panic over.
Yeah.
I think he's got class, and I think in a small field like this, I'd be really disappointed if he's not a comfortable winner. I don't think it'd be 17 lengths like last time, but I think he'll run out a nice winner.
Way to bring up the hat-trick then for the three of us again. We're not being quite as original as Buddy won last week, but still, though, we're all in agreement with Shishkin, where, again, I echo both of your thoughts there. I think this is a very fair price. I think, arguably, his best runs have come over this course and distance. Say, the 16-length beating of Pic D'Orhy in the race last year. He's carrying the same weight as him here as well. I can't see that form being reversed at all, and hopefully they've ironed out all of those little issues he had previously, and the headgear can only help him.
Maybe the time to catch him is fresh, you know, when he's kind of had a nice summer break. Himself and Constitution Hill were out in the field together, I think, all summer.
Exchanging notes, I'm sure.
Exchanging notes, yeah, two absolute weapons at their best.
And John Bonover, actually, to be fair, he would have been Martin Sound, but I completely take the point, though, where all of Nicky Henderson's horses. He's just got a very talented bunch to go to war with this season. We are all with Shishkin. Do let us know who you are siding with in the comments section below. Now, we move on to another race at Ascot. This is the Grade 2 Coral Hurdle, otherwise known as the Ascot Hurdle for the 4-year-olds and over 2 mile 3 at 2:05. Now, we have 5 declared runners, guys, so 2 places on offer in comparison to our previous Ascot contest. The market headed 2-1 by Goshen. So, Sam, does he behave himself here, or what was the play for you?
Finally, a favourite I'm taking on. Listen, he's been a hell of a horse, hasn't he, Goshen? He's only 7. I mean, it feels like he's been around forever. I just had a few concerns about him. I don't think he's the sort of horse that I want to get involved with at 2-1. For all I know, he took this race 12 months ago, and I think, you know, he's the right favourite in terms of where the market comes down on, but it's a very short price. Niall Houlihan taking over wouldn't be a concern. Just want to obviously send our wishes to the Moors, who've got Ryan and Jamie, both who've been in the wars. But like I say, this market for me was interesting, and it was actually the 2 at bigger prices I liked. But strong leader for Ollie Murphy, who's seemingly going quite nicely, 11-2. But Blue King d'Or came down on. Now, 4-year-olds in this race don't have the best record, but it's a small sample size. And what sort of struck me was, obviously, Harry Cobden, there's been a lot of talk about the fact he's been going here. Johnny Delahaye loves having runners at Ascot, and I checked out his record. If you'd backed his runners blind at Ascot since he started having horses with Paul Nicholls, you'd be £26 in profit to a £1 stake, which is significantly clear on everything else. He's got something like a near 20% strike rate with his runners at the track. Now, that doesn't mean this horse is going to go and win. He's got to find a hell of a lot of improvement. But after that win, the first start of the season, which came at Cheltenham in the October meeting, where a couple of pulls were still a bit hit and miss, so I kind of upgraded that effort. He noted that he was either going to come to the Greatwood or this particular meeting because the owner likes to have winners there. Harry Cobden turning up here doesn't mean the horse will win, but I just thought he is a potential Paul Nicholls 4-year-old, French bred, that will kick on from that last season and find that bit of improvement. And I thought 11-2 was a fair price, and I was willing to take a chance.
It's interesting why they didn't go for the Greatwood, isn't it? And came here instead. And perhaps, like say, the Johnny Delahaye reason is maybe factoring into that. So then, a joint outsider for Sam then, Dec. Where did you look?
Yes, it was at the previous race. Sam kind of mentioned the drying ground at Ascot. I think that's probably going to be against Goshen, isn't it? To be fair, he has won on a range of different grounds, but I always feel he's a bit of a machine when it's kind of Linkfield heavy, that kind of ground. I think the drying ground's really going to suit Theatre
Glory, yeah.
Theatre Glory, yeah, we got there eventually. I was going to say Theatre Guide. I was like, oh, he's a bit slow to be running over this trip. But Theatre Glory for the Henderson team. Like, she is a mare with an awful lot of natural pace and exuberance. And, you know, the one time she did get kind of decent ground last season was at Warwick, and I thought she was electric. You know, she made Ollie's Wishes look very, very slow, and she's a good mare, although she's probably not as good now these days. It's going to be tough for her first time out under a penalty. But look, I just came down. I think the drying ground is massively in her favour, and that's probably going to go against the likes of Goshen and a couple of others in there as well. And I'm kind of putting my faith in a top class outfit and Nicky Henderson and Eco de Bonneville kind of getting her over the line. So I thought drying ground, the main reason I wanted to side with that with Theatre Glory.
But Nicky Henderson pyjamas are coming out on this week's show, Theatre Glory for Dec. Now, I am going with my dear old friend Goshen at the head of the market, admittedly, but you just have to side with this horse to win, because if he doesn't win, he runs abysmally. I sided with him in the Cambridgeshire last time out. Yeah, he didn't like Newmarket very much, did he? He wasn't a fan of the flat there, but we know he likes Ascot, so at least the Cambridgeshire will have him fit for this, have that freshness taken out of him as well, under Niall Houlihan, of course. As you say, Jamie Moore currently sidelined through injury, and we send our best to Jamie, of course. But he did win this race last year, 2 starts prior to it, going right-handed. We know that's what he wants, and I totally agree with you, Dec, where the ground is a concern. It has been drying up throughout the entirety of the week, but he did win on officially good ground in this race last year. So I know that they had the rain in the week last year and the build-up to the race, so perhaps that took some sting out of it, but I still think clear on ratings that Goshen has the ability to win this, so Goshen for me.
It's going to be really interesting to see how Niall Houlihan gets on with him, isn't he? Because I think he's probably a horse that takes a little bit of knowing. I don't know if Niall's left-handed or right-handed, but he's going to be working his left. He's going to be working his left rein very hard throughout here. So I hope he gets on all right.
I really hope so as well. He's a top-class pilot, and hopefully knows plenty enough of him from home. But you're siding with, though?
Theatre of Glory for me.
And Sam?
Blue King Duo for me.
Right, 3 different selections in a 5-runner race. Good job, guys. Right, there you go. They are our selections. Again, do let us know your own selections in the comments section below. Now, something a little bit different for you, because, of course, with plenty top-class graded chases on this weekend, it's going to have a bit of a shake-up in the King George market. So we thought we'd take an ante-post look at the King George and what our current plays would be at this stage prior to the weekend. So, Sam, I'm going to go back to you. Your ante-post play for the King George at this stage?
Yeah, obviously we've got the 2 at the front of the betting. Brave Man's Game, current favourite, but for me it's all about Shishkin this weekend. I think this is where he makes a triumphant return. He wins well, maybe not quite as well as he previously did before heading to Cheltenham last year, but I really think I'm expecting big things from him. I think his price cut will be shorter than Brave Man's Game. I want to take the price at the moment on Nicky Henderson's horse. I really like him. I think finally we get to see him at that trip. I know he obviously ran over 3 miles at Aintree, 3 miles at Kempton, probably more similar than 3 miles elsewhere. I really think Nicky Henderson's a man who knows how to win this race. I was quite interested looking through recent winners of the King George. I think Frodon's the only one in the last 6 that's had more than 1 run before going to the King George, which would go against Brave Man's Game, of course, who's likely to be obviously going to end up with 2 before the race.
Oh, I like that a lot then. And I'm going to echo those sentiments because I'm with Shishkin as well. When I initially had this question posed to me, I sort of thought, well, if I'm taking on Brave Man's Game in the Betfair Chase, surely Protector at about 20-1, if I'm chancing him to win, is the way to go for the King George. But then I thought, if Allaho turns up, Brave Man's Game, of course, at his best at Kempton, in my opinion. And then if you have Shishkin also going there, do I really think Protector can win a King George? No. So what's the point in sitting on a bigger price if I don't think that they're going to win? So Shishkin, about 4-1 currently, is the way that I would have to go as well, because he's going to shorten this weekend, especially if Brave Man's Game gets beaten as well. Then Shishkin, I don't think we'll be seeing 4-1 around for too much longer. So Shishkin for the pair of us, Dec.
Well, while Shishkin, Pictori, Brave Man's Game and Protectorate are knocking lumps out of each other this weekend, Allaho's just going to be chilling at home at Close Sutton, putting his feet up, isn't he? And just kind of being brought slowly through his paces to peak for the King George, which I'm assuming they were going. He was supposed to run in the race last season, but obviously he missed the entire season, didn't he? He had a very rare issue with his spleen. But he wasn't you wouldn't expect him to be as good as he was kind of first time out on Clonmel on heavy ground, but it was nice to see a bit of life about him. He jumped straight, which I like as well, because he has been a horse in the past who has adjusted and jumped left. I always felt Allaho was a much better horse on really nice ground. Kempton, but sometimes when it's soft there, it's not kind of Irish heavy soft. So, and sometimes it can be really nice ground there. So, you know, he had the issue with his spleen, but I've been told Ruby Walsh has no spleen and he's still performing fairly well. So, yeah, Allaho for the King George for me.
Oh, Ruby and Allaho, then brothers in arms for lacking an organ, a vital organ. Then. But yeah, so Declan is then with Allaho, 5-1 current price. Sam and I both with Shishkin at 7-2. Our ante-post plays for the King George. Do let us know your own selections for the King George at this stage in the comment section below as we head over to the Sky Pad to give you our best bets for the weekend. Now, we have moved over to the Sky Pad, and if you were watching the social media about the races in the week, you would have seen that we put up a competition for you to win 2 tickets to Ascot's Long Walk Hurdle meeting. And of course, the answer to our competition question was the mighty Faugheen. So congratulations to @Lewis_Davies11. You are our winner. We hope you have a fantastic time at Ascot on the 23rd of December. But our own all-important part now, our best bets for the weekend. So, Dec, you're up first.
Right, this week we've covered the next best and the long shot already, but the nap is going to go in the graduation chase at Haydock on Saturday, and it's going to be grey dawning for the Skelton team. This is a good little race. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. It's a warm graduation chase. You've got Galia de Menil coming over from the Mullins clan there, and you've also got Apple Away, the Grade 1 winner of the Sefton Novice Hurdle last season. But I absolutely loved Grey Dawning's chase debut behind Stay Away Fade Exeter. He looks like a horse who's built for chasing. I loved how he jumped. He could do everything, get in tight, and he could be very brave as well. And he just looks like he's really taken to it. He gets £11 from Galia de Menil, and I'm hoping the chasing experience over Apple Away can get him over the line at Haydock. The next best we've already covered. That's going to be Brave Man's Game. I still even think at that price there's a little bit of juice in there. He's a horse who just jumps for fun. I think getting back on a flat track and more importantly on better ground is going to be a big plus for him. And then the long shot is going to be Santos Blue. I'm hoping for a great day at Haydock for the Skeltons on Saturday. This guy is just grossly overpriced, especially compared to Crambo, who is one of the market leaders in this race. He's another horse who I think will enjoy getting back on a slightly quicker surface, and for a 2 1/4 length beaten last time out, he's got a £6 swing at the weights.
Oh, you've made a good case again there for Santos Blue. 16-1 then for Dec's long shot. Sam, where were you looking?
Yeah, 2 out of 3 last week, so let's hope we can
Very well done, by the way.
At least do that. Well, the nap was a bit short last week, so we've gone for something a little bit bigger in price. It's my old friend Flooring Porter. We're back for more. Flooring Porter, obviously an impressive winner on first chase start at Cheltenham back in October, and the form of that race is starting to work out nicely. Anyone that was watching Cheltenham last week saw, obviously, Broadway Boy, who was a nice winner for Nigel Twiston-Davies. Flooring Porter had his measure. He's back home in Ireland. This is a better race than he contested in the UK on first chase start, but I'm fairly confident Gavin Cromwell is ticking over nicely, and Flooring Porter can enhance his credentials over fences once more. Crambo, we've already discussed. If he is going to make up into a stayers hurdle horse, he's got to really be winning this, and I think 3-1's a really fair price. Now, my long shot, I really struggled this week to find a long shot, so I've ended up with a proper long shot at 33-1 with Melistic, who Brian Hughes only got a couple of rides down at Ascot, and listen, I don't necessarily think this is thrown in off his current mark, but I just thought it was quite a curious kind of place to place the horse. He'll come on from the Kelso run, which was disappointing. He ended up last that day, but I think he's still within the realms of possible a little bit of juice off about mark of 150. And also just to say, he is quite lightly raced for his age because he had a few injury issues when he was younger, but he's an each way play.
A 33-1, so we've gone 33-1 and 16-1 shots, long shots. And for pair of you two, I'm slightly nervous about what price my long shot's going to be now as a result. But my own best bets, my nap is a horse I sided with last time out. Boot Hill, that is, goes in the 3:15 at Ascot, the 2 mile 1 handicap chase. He didn't let me down last time out, so I'm not going to abandon him now for very similar reasons as last time. He's beaten a whole host of horses who are reopposing here in that most recent start. A really likeable horse whose defeats last season could have been easily excused because of either positional bias or just jumping into good horses. He's now 3 from 3 in handicap chases, 2 of which over this course and distance. £6 rise is fair, and I think we'll be seeing him in graded company before too long. My next best bet then is Credo in the 3:35 at Haydock. A fascinating race. This is a 3 mile 1.5 furlong handicap chase who won her reappearance in good style at Kempton last time out. She beat the boys as well, showing ground versatility. 3 from 7 over fences. She's gone up £23 in effectively 3 wins from a mark of 107 to 130 now. But I still think she looks ahead of the handicapper. And my long shot, everyone's favourite cliff horse, is Coconut Splash. Now, he's only a 12-1 shot. He actually goes in the same race as Credo here, and he was finished 10.5 lengths behind Credo last time out. He was always off the bridle. I don't think Kempton Kempton suited him. I think Haydock and a long slog of a home straight will suit him much better. And he might just finally get the job done and get a first handicap win as well. You've got to put Coconut Splash in there where you possibly can, haven't you? I'm a glutton for punishment. Right, that is everything from us on this week's show. A big thank you to Dec and to Sam for all of their hard work as per usual. A big thank you to you at home for watching. Remember, you can watch all of Ascot's action live on Sky Sports Racing. We'll be back at the same time next week to preview more weekend action.